Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Writers Chat. We are so glad to see you here today, whether in the chat or if you're watching the replay. And it's such a wonderful thing to get together as a community of writers where we talk about writing, all things writers, by writers, and for writers. And so it is great to see you all today. And thank you for taking time to enlarge your toolbox and learn something new. We have a really great topic today, kind of lessons that from our own camp, what people have learned recently. So I suspect we're going to learn a lot. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to tell us about what we're talking about today and to lead from there. So take it away, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Writers Chat. Today, we're going to talk about our launch party lessons. And when I was first approached by Brandy and the team about this topic to talk about our lessons learned from my recent launch party, I felt like the least qualified person to address the issue. It was kind of a deer in the headlights moment for me, like, oh, really? You want to hear from me today, huh? But a lot of that was due to the fact that it was a year of firsts for me. I mean, all around, it was my first publication, my first book, my first series, everything hit me all at once this last year. And it wasn't even a normal launch, it was a rapid release. So it all felt kind of strange to be the one presenting on a topic when it was my first time with everything. It felt like a trial by fire, kind of like the John Wayne method of teaching you how to swim, pick you up and toss you in the creek and see if you can stroke for shore. That was what this experience felt like for me. So there was a lot of learning as I went and flying by the seat of my pants in the process of running a book launch and setting up for a launch party. And I gotta say, apart from that, I have to put in a little plug for the book launch blueprint course, which is put on by Thomas Umstead Jr. and James L. Rubart. If not for that course, I wouldn't have had any foundation to build on, and I would have been going into this completely blind. So I do highly recommend that one if you can afford to invest in it and you have a launch party and a book launch coming up in general. So that was definitely a lifesaver for me. But still, there was a lot that I had to learn on my own. And it would take forever to discuss all the ins and outs of a book launch itself. So I'm really glad that we're just focusing on the launch party today. A launch party itself is fairly cut and dried as far as expectations. I mean, people come to this wanting to learn about you as the author in your book and to celebrate your big success with the publication. And so, oh, yes, I just noticed Jean's comment in the chat. Just for those who want to know about the book launch blueprint, I can share a link in the chat about that later. I was not prepared to share that today, but I'll be able to find it real quick for everyone. Anyway, let's see here. I lost my train of thought. I'm good at that. You'll find I'm a little scatterbrained and I like rabbit trails. So apologies. I may have to have the team reel me back in from time to time. Let's see, where did I leave off now? It is fairly cut and dried, the launch party. But the nice thing about it is that it can be as flexible and tailored to the author yourself. You do what works for you as the author. And the party being unique to you and your book is what makes it fun for everyone else. So today I'm gathered with my wonderful clan council members, as I fondly refer to them. And we're going to talk a bit about our experience with the Tale of the Clans book launch and share a little bit about the roles that we played, the lessons that we learned throughout the process, and maybe some things that we would change next time we go around. So with that, I'm going to turn everything over to Norma, who's graciously agreed to kind of field our questions and discussion today. She's really good at carrying on the conversation. So thank you for doing that today, Norma. I'll turn it over to you.
My pleasure. So glad to be here. And this launch party was quite an experience for me. My job was to monitor the Facebook chat because there's a little bit of a lag between Zoom and Facebook. And that way I could, since there were prizes being given away for first person that responded to a question with the correct answer, I was kind of monitoring all that. So
Norma,
yes, ma'am.
why don't we explain how we did the party? Like we had the main group on Zoom and then we live streamed it to Facebook, and that was a unique setup.
Yeah.
Maybe Norma or Melissa, you could just explain what we did with that.
Oh, sure. Well, that, and then I'll kind of explain a little bit more into the details of that too. But we had to choose a platform for presenting the party, and since we couldn't do an actual in-person party, we chose to do a virtual one. And in choosing platforms, the one that worked best for this go-around we thought would be Zoom through Facebook Live. And so we actually used 2 platforms in order to present the party to people. And we had a special VIP access for clan members to the Zoom part of it. And then we opened it up to any who wanted to attend through Facebook Live. And so that's what was going on. And so what Norma was starting to touch on, and I'll let her finish discussing on, was that we had 2 different chats that we were monitoring through this party for those who were attending Zoom and those who were attending Facebook Live. And Norma was the Facebook monitor extraordinaire. So I'll let you continue talking about it from that point then, Norma.
I don't know about the extraordinary part, but I did the best I could. So
Great.
it was engaging. There was a lag, and so that made things a little interesting. And our idea today is to describe what our job was, what we learned, and what we would do differently. I learned throughout this process that there about this 10-second, 20-second, something like that, lag when you go live through Zoom to how it's heard on Facebook then. And so I had both windows up. I had my Zoom window and I had Facebook up. And if I had it to do over again, I would probably still have the Zoom up, but I would have it up maybe on my phone on the side where I can kind of monitor a little bit, but not hear what's happening Facebook Live and hear what's happening Zoom Live. It got to be a bit interesting. And so to help calm the confusion, honestly, I would do that differently. So with that, but it was so much fun, and our Facebook audience was very engaging. And I think some of the best part of it was some of the questions that were asked of Melissa, which we'll get into here shortly. So what I'd like to start with is, Melissa, you kind of told us a little bit about what you did. We were launching your series of books, and when she says it was rapid fire, I mean to tell y'all, it was rapid fire. There was no rest for the weary for Melissa during this time. And so that she's smiling and still here today is a tribute to her and to the Lord for giving her the strength to persevere through, because it was kind of tough, y'all. I'm kind of tongue in cheek, but it really was. Melissa is such a trooper, and I'm so honored to be a part of this team. I'd like to ask you, Brandy, what was your job? Even if you want to back up a little bit to even right before a little bit before the launch party, what was it that you did?
Well, before the launch party, we were discussing our plan, and I would say that was one thing we did right, is we made a plan and figured out what we were going to do and what we were going to have in this party. And one of the things that I really did at that time was I really encouraged Melissa to use her personal artwork of her characters and from her book to use as digital gifts. And she was pretty hesitant to do that. But I saw a value there that I knew others would appreciate. Sometimes when you're an artist, you underappreciate your own work and you don't expect others are going to think very well of it, especially if you look at your own work and you see all kinds of flaws or that it didn't come out the way that you wanted it to come out. I know that myself as an artist. but I knew that others would find value in that. So I really encouraged her to do that. And so eventually she agreed, and I helped her get those digital gifts to a good format, cleaned up some stuff on the scans for her so that she would have a really nice gift to present to people. So I did that beforehand and encouraged Melissa a lot. And then during the party, I monitored the Zoom chat because we did have a couple guests here. And then I also put a bunch of links because we had a lot of party gifts for people that attended. And Norman did the same thing on the Facebook side, putting up a bunch of party gift links. So I did all that. However, I have to say, I kept feeling throughout the whole thing that I felt like I really wasn't doing anything much of value. And Melissa kept telling me, no, you did a huge amount. And I still am like, okay, I don't see it, but I'm glad that you do. So one thing that I learned is that sometimes what we might perceive as not much help can be a tremendous help to somebody else. So offer yourself. Because you never know what somebody else is going to find helpful, and it could be more valuable than you think. One thing also that I learned was that when you are live streaming from one platform to another, if you don't mute one of them, you're going to have major problems with the sound and it looping and looping and looping on both platforms, and then it's quite sci-fi-ish and it can be a challenge, especially if you have several of you on Zoom that are also on Facebook and a couple go off. Yeah, that can be fun. We had an issue here or there, but we were really good and got back on top of it because we knew ahead of time that could be a problem. So that worked out really well. Something else that I learned was that was to trust my teammates. Not that I don't trust my teammates, but in this particular situation, I felt really out of control. And I kind of like to have a handle on what I'm doing and where things are going, and not having ever done this type of launch party before where we're on two platforms and not knowing how the communication is going to work, I felt really uneasy. But I learn to trust my teammates and just go with it and trust God that, we had a script. Thank you, Lord, for the script. Thank you, team, for the script, because it really helped to know when to put gifts out on the chat and things like that. Yes. So I would say what I would do differently is I would pray and trust more and stress less. That's, I think, the really, really big thing. And then I guess for me personally, I would prefer to choose one platform to do a party on instead of using two. But that's just because I need a little bit more handle on things and not to be so all over the place. But I will say that it was really good with this team and having this really strong team that worked well together, that we each had our roles. And because we each had our roles, everything worked. And so even though I was stressed, we were all stressed, we all felt the same way. But because we had our roles and we worked well together and we trusted each other, it went well.
Melissa, there's a question in the chat as to why did we choose to use two platforms? Would you like to answer that?
Well, there's kind of a lot of that had to do with just my technical ineptitude, but two, just not knowing what the best platforms were and what to use, and also trying to figure out the best balance to facilitate benefits to the launch team and also to make the party available to the general public who didn't have anything to do with the planning process. And so I wanted to find ways where we could, facilitate, trying to think of the way I want to word that, rewarding the team, but also keeping the general public in a area that was easier to manage, because on Zoom, there's a lot of there could be a lot of distractions when you have a lot of people interacting on there. And so we thought to keep it kind of consolidated to just a select few, and then not quite knowing how to manage it as far as inviting people in. We thought that Facebook would be a bit more user friendly to the public and easier for them to access. And so since a lot of people are used to attending launch parties virtually through Facebook Live, that was just kind of the natural choice. Other options, like Pam mentioned in the chat, were like Discord or other places like that. And a lot of people weren't familiar with Discord and kind of discomforted with it. And so since most of the people who follow me in my books weren't familiar with the platform, I wanted to stick with a platform that was comfortable for most people to attend. So that was why we chose Facebook Live through Zoom. And I think next time I would try to just do my homework a little more and research the different types of platforms. I can address that a little more later with my end of the things differently. But yeah, I would do my homework and look at other web platforms similar to Zoom probably, or even YouTube Live would probably be another good option. It occurred to me that probably I ought to kind of go through my process to kind of put everything into more of a perspective so that it helps you guys to understand the perspective of the team too. So I guess like Brandy, oh, did you have a comment, Brandy?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the other benefit of using the Zoom platform as the primary source of the party was that there were no copyright issues, whereas Facebook Live, they tend to claim rights on your stream, so that having it on Zoom, Melissa could save the recording and then do whatever she wanted to with the launch party recording afterward.
For sure. And that's another part that I think the authors really need to kind of do the research into. Different platforms have different rules that it's good to be familiar with, because they can pose certain limitations you might not be aware of. So yeah, definitely do your homework with whatever platform you choose to do your virtual party for, if that's the venue you decide to go with. So my process for the launch party and preparing for that was, first, like Brandy alluded to, I came up with a general plan for the party. I actually typed up a document and did some brainstorming in it about what my expectations for the party would be and what expectations readers might have in attending the party, and just kind of brainstorm to come up with a general idea of what would work. And then I also posed questions to my launch team and to my followers on my newsletter and on social media and stuff. And I asked about interest from the team to actually assist in it. And that's how the Clan Council was formed, for those who were really interested in helping be that support team for me and help to bounce ideas off of one another. And that's what we did. After I kind of got the general idea of what I wanted to do, or just some ideas to bounce off of people, then I set up specific Zoom meets to meet with those who were interested in helping with the planning process. And we had several through the course of book launches. As alluded, 4 books were launched. And initially, I thought that I would have to do a party for each one, and quickly learned that that just was not practical for the situation, because there just wasn't enough time to plan it all and to come up with something that, would offer quality to those who were attending. So we decided to combine all of the books together in one big launch at the end, and have a big party to celebrate the culmination of all of the Tale of the Clans coming out. And so we got together, we bounced back ideas and shared. Some were good, some we decided to toss. One of the things that I did decide to toss, and Brandy kind of alluded to it, was a common thing that a lot of authors do. Some authors will just go all out with prizes and party favors and stuff for the party. And I think that's awesome for those who can afford to do it. But I was not one of those authors who could afford to just get tons of gift cards and party favors and things like that. So we fell back on the idea of just a couple really nice prizes. And then the rest were going to be digital art and graphics that I created and shared as party favors. And Norma also contributed to that. I'll let her talk about that a little later too. So we gave away a lot of digital art and graphics for party favors to people. And then we also did book giveaways. I had 1 copy of each book in the series that I gave away, and we had some fun games that we did that we played in order to bring that about. I have my little game projection. If you guys, it's not really a projection, it's a PDF. It shows how non-tech savvy I am. I have a PDF that I use to put the games up on the screen share, and if you guys would like to see that, I can show it off. We what we did here, let me find my share screen. What we did was when people came on after we introduced everyone, we had these fun little multiple choice questions that we let people answer. And first I had this give me one that I created. Can everybody see it? I may need someone to chime in and tell me if they can.
Yes.
Yes.
I can't see the chat. Okay.
I thought you were just commenting on that because we did that at the party too. So
Yes, we did. There was a lot of questioning of the attendees, all the guests, like, can you see me now? Is it better here? So this was the test question. How many of you can read this question? And then I'd pop it down to the multiple choice. All of you, some of you, none of you. What was the question again? You may guess that we got a lot of D's. So anyway, then we turned it into more thematic for the book launch itself. And then I posed general history questions to get people excited about the book. And those who got the answer right, chimed in first with the correct answer, would win a free copy, a paperback copy of one of the books in my series. So this was the first question that they got. At what period in history is the Tale of the Clan series set? Now, this one was kind of a give me one that I put for those who actually were following and paying attention, because I constantly talked about it. And it was also kind of a cheater one, because if you look, their options were 10th century, Viking era, during hiking Brian Rue's lifetime, all of the above. Well, that was the answer, the very last one. So I tried to make them challenging yet easy for everyone, so that it was still fun for those who attended. And we got some rave reviews from all the guests, how much they liked those multiple choice questions, because it was engaging, got everyone excited. And then of course the prizes are always fun too.
yeah, I think the highlight though was when you went through and you spoke many of the words so that we knew how they sounded.
Mhm.
Everybody loved that and kept putting in, how do you say this? How do you say that? How do you say this other one? They had like guests keep wanting to know, I want to know how to say this, so that when they read the books, they would have that in their minds.
And most of that referred to the names of your characters.
Yeah, we
And
had
places. Yep.
those who
That-
have read my books know that there's quite a bit of foreign words and names in my books, and while there's a pronunciation guide in the book, it's still just not quite the same. So it's fun to hear the author or a native speaker, which we didn't have the luxury of, but tell us how to pronounce the names. And yeah.
Melissa, would you give us an example of, let's say, a couple of your characters and a couple of the villages or places that have unusual names?
Yeah, I wish that I had something to show you on the screen so that people could see what it looks like and then hear the pronunciations. There's a little
Well, if you have your digital gift of the map, you got all the names of the clans and the places there.
That was the one I did not open up. Maybe I should have like a coffee talk moment, talk amongst yourselves while I look for that one.
While you look for that, I'm going to jump in and say, Melissa has mentioned, and we've all mentioned several times here, that this was a rapid release. We're talking 4 books released in 4 months, 1 book a month. And most people, I know there's a lot of speed readers in this group. I'm not one of them. And it was hard for me, between reading and all my other responsibilities, to get a book done in a month. And quite honestly, I didn't make it. So that was really tough. I've heard other authors say how busy and hectic one book launch is. And so that was the reasoning of the team with the idea of, let's just do one big launch at the release of the 4th book before Christmas time. And that way, Christmas gifts, and we thought it would be a good way to promote that and at the prime time. And so it was, I would, if it can all be avoided, I would say don't do a rapid launch. It's tough. And it was very, very difficult for Melissa. The other thing I loved about the questions and things that Melissa asked is the background. I don't know if you noticed on the couple she put up was something to do with one of her books or pictures from her books or the cover of her book behind each of the questions. So she wasn't saying my books, my books, my books. We just had fun, played games, did the pronunciation of things, and talked about that history, that time in history. And she did a fabulous job of promoting her books without promoting her books, if that makes sense. And not saying, go buy my book, go buy my book, go to Amazon, go buy my book. We didn't do that. She didn't do that. And I think it was wonderful, because I think all of us have probably been at launch parties where it's just my book here, and you feel like it's kind of being shoved in your face. I thought the way the team laid everything out, that it just went super great. And I think it's a great formula for future book launches, because it was fun facts about the books. There were questions asked about how Melissa did research and all these different things that made it about the books, but we weren't constantly shoving the books in people's face. Melissa, after you show us this map and pronounce some of these names, I would like for you to explain to us or tell us about the grand prize that was given. So,
all right, well, here, I did finally find the map. Hopefully it's the correct map. I have several copies of the map. So can everyone see this map now?
Yes.
I don't know if there's any part that's blocking the screen in the share, but so this was a map that I actually hand drew and offered to my publisher to give them a kind of base to go off, and they created a digital version that went into the books. But so many people loved the hand-drawn map, so then we made it one of the gifts that I gave away. And so here you get a general layout of what Ireland looked like, or how it was basically broken down during that time period. And of course, not with all the details, but just the main places that were pertinent to the story. So I guess the first ones that are always fun for everyone is to go into the provincial ones. So this main one, that one always throws everyone off. You look at that with an American pronunciation, you're like, what is this? Muin. That's pronounced Muin in Irish. And this would be the ancient name of the province of Munster today. And so that's one. Some of them are pretty easy looking at them. These are more anglicized versions like Desmond. The Irish version of that one would be Desmuin. And then up here fell back on the anglicized form of Tumund, and its Irish pronunciation would have been Tomuin. So they're all designations that this would be Northern Muin, this would be Southern Muin, the whole province broken down. And then I threw in a few place names and clans. This one always gets people too. That one's Ifiganta. And Corca is the name of the place there, which is the old name for Cork. And Dalcash. A lot of people look at it and say Dalcase. Some even around the area still do. So it varies pronouncing that S, but since it's next to an I, it's actually a sh sound, like the name Sean. Were there any other up there that you guys see that you want me to pronounce, or did we cover some good ones?
No, I think we covered some good ones.
Okay, so that was just a little taste of what I did. When we had the live party, we actually typed some in the chat so that people could look at the chat and read the Irish word, and then I would pronounce it for them. And that was fun to kind of have that revelation. So also, like Norma had pointed out, we had 2 grand prizes. So like what I did, I had some general party favors and gifts that I created and some that Norma created. And we shared those with those who were attending Facebook Live. But I wanted to do something really special thankful for the launch team because they really showed a lot of devotion and loyalty and assistance. I mean, that's a lot of dedication, 4 months in a row. And there were a lot of people who stuck with it through all the 4 months. It was a big ask. And so I wanted to kind of do something special for them. And they each, every member of the launch team throughout the launches got little digital gifts aside and other things that I sent them in the mail. But I wanted a big fun thing to kind of get everyone excited. So I picked 2 grand prizes that we were going to have a drawing for, and the launch team members themselves also could kind of do little things to help work up towards getting more names in the hat for the drawing, like different participations in the launch team, just to make it more exciting and fun. And so the first one that I here, I gotta get my screen share working again. The first one that I offered to everyone was, where'd my picture go? My picture disappeared. Well, I'll show the second one then. I'm going to have to go back and hunt for that other one again.
Well, while you're looking at that, I want to show your books. Oh, you got it up. I was going to show your books too. So
this was
we'll
actually
do that later.
The ultimate grand prize right here was a hand forged Celtic cross, and my husband actually made that. He dabbles in blacksmithing, and so he had made one for me and then made a replica that we gave away, and that was one of the grand prizes. Everyone really loved that one. That's something I highly recommend to those who are doing their launch parties, to try to find a fun gift that's tailored to your book's subject. Just like, when you're gearing the party for your readers, just like with your books, you're thinking reader first. Think about that with the gift giving too. What's something thematic that works with your books and would excite people. And everyone really loved that one. And the other thing that I gave away was a Neferteffel game board, which Leslie Lowe, she's one of our clan members. She's actually with us today, and she's the one who received that one. It was pretty fun. That's the one I forgot to find my picture for. I would have to go hunt for that if you want to see it. But Neferteffel, for those who don't know, is actually the precursor to chess. So it's the Viking form of chess, or the game that came before. And they actually developed different variants of that game in Ireland and Britain during the time. So there were different rules, and nobody fully knows the rules to the game even to this day. It's kind of a general idea of how it was played, which is part of the fun, I suppose. You can make up your own if you got your own Neferteffel game board.
Melissa, it's been mentioned in the chat that a couple people would love to read your books, but they don't know the titles. So if you would like to put some links in the chat where they can find them along with the titles, that would be great. And Brandy's holding up a couple of the first 2.
Book 1, book 2,
Rise of Betrayal,
book 3,
Zone of Division,
book 4, Lord of Vengeance. And the first one was Man of Sorrows, and Rise of Betrayal was the second. We can put those in the chat for you.
Joe, can you tell us a little bit about your job? You were the MC for the evening. Can you tell us about that?
Well, first, I just want to say a big thank you to Writers Chat, because the community that I have gotten to know over the years that I've been on here has just been tremendous. And I think that really benefited our connection and our ability to do what we did. I so enjoyed what I did. And one of the things I think that was so beneficial, and I may repeat a couple of things very quickly, was that we met multiple times before the launch and we threw things around. And one of them was not to do 4 separate ones, but to do the one. And God bless you, Melissa. Kudos to you. I have to tell you, you did an amazing job of getting information out to us. One of the things I think that was very important for us was to be able to, you drew on community. And I think that is one of the things that we talked about in our kind of, before this meeting today, was draw on your community of readers, of family, of individuals. You do not know who you know that might be able to help in your launch party, whether it is like for Melissa's husband, who was able to forge that incredible cross, to other people that might be able to assist in doing other things like that. I emphasize over and over again what everybody was saying about it's not just about your book, saying buy my book. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. It was just a blast. One of the first questions I think was, what animal do you like the best, cow or sheep? And the responses were, I just loved them. Of course, I picked sheep. I did not, it was not the number one, but it was just those fun times. We just had so much fun. And I think that is the critical part of it all. When you were talking about swords, because, you're talking about all different kinds of things in the course of all the incredible research that you did. I mean, it was just great. So I pulled out, I don't know if you can see this. I'm hoping that you can, but I pulled out one of my swords and because I am a collector of swords. And so I had swords that I pulled out and some bayonets, and I collect grenades as well and knives. And so that was just a fun part for me to show some of those as well.
And had we not had our meeting ahead of time, we didn't know that Joe collected swords and all those things. And we decided that she would be our protection if we went anywhere together, just so you know.
Yes. So I think that just doing it in that fun way and feeling, and listen, we were all very nervous. Let's be real honest. We all were, and you've all said it. But when it started, everybody just did what they were supposed to do. And that made it, I think, work extremely, extremely well. One of the things I think that for myself that can I say what I might do differently?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the things I was thinking about as we were having this last conversation was I would absolutely look to have somebody over a prayer team. Somebody that would be able to, because we were praying, believe other people were praying, but I think to have somebody over, prayer, and they'd just be able to send out certain things at different times and to be focused on that. Because for me, and I think for so many of us, prayer is so important. And that was the one thing that I think I would do for my own book launch that'll be coming up. And I think just feeling really comfortable with the people that you're working with, I think is really important. Just don't pick somebody and then, you're on the next time going live or anything like that. And beyond that, I loved all the script that we had. I think that was really important. Even though we went off of it, you're not going to always be on, the script all the time. But
kind of like a book outline.
Right. Yes, exactly. And it was so incredibly helpful to have that to keep us all, pretty much on track. And obviously the platforms that we were doing, as you guys were talking about Facebook and Zoom, to research that really well and find something that would really work, to your benefit. And I think that would be really great. But it is, let me just say, for my part, I enjoyed it tremendously. I can talk, so it's easy. I feel even though you're nervous and all of those kind of things, once you start doing it, it is so much fun. And, that would be kind of, my little take on some of the things. So if anybody obviously has any questions, we can certainly go on from there, but whatever you want to do, Norma, you lead us.
All right. Melissa, excuse me. Sorry, y'all. I'm having a little bit of scratchy throat. What would you say you learned the most from this experience?
Well, I definitely learned a lot of the helpful things, like both Joe and Brandy mentioned. I put together a script that we had to follow for the launch party day because we knew we were going to be nerves, and to have something there that kind of just broke it all down from what we'd be saying to the technical steps that we'd be going through, getting onto Zoom, getting onto Facebook Live, welcoming everybody, who was going to do what at what point in time, just kind of tried to break it all down. And that really helped to have that to fall back on, so that if you had your moment where, your brain just kind of blanked out, you could go and you could look at that script and you could get back into things. And yeah, then after that, I would say definitely it's, again, others have already touched on it in the group, and I think it's so essential. Seek assistance, seek help. You can't be a one woman or man show in this. You have to have a team behind you. You cannot do it all by yourself. If you try, you will burn out. Everything will crash and burn. So seek help, reach out to everybody, let them know your needs. If you're not sure about your needs, get together with some people and get ideas, and you'll discover them pretty quickly. And then another thing that I really learned was communication is so essential in a book launch and in formulating the launch party. Be on top of the communication. You set yourself up a schedule if you need to. I sure did. I had a constant to-do list and planner that I was following to keep me on task. It doesn't matter how many times and through how many platforms you tell people something, someone will miss the memo. So be prepared to repeat yourself often and to be available to answer questions, because it's going to come up, and it's very important for you as the author to be able to make yourself available to the team and to people who are inquiring about your books. And then also be flexible. You're gonna have to be flexible in a book launch and book launch party, because inevitably something is going to go wrong. Some of your well thought out plans will fall through, or maybe a lot of them, and you've got to be prepared to kind of roll with the punches there and learn how to work around it and make things go smoothly despite all of the road bumps. So yeah, that's definitely what I learned in the process.
And what would you do differently now that you're on the other side of the launch party? You've had a couple months to kind of, I made it, and kind of regroup and then look back at how it went. Based on all of that, what would you do differently? What will you do differently for your next book launch party?
Just like what Brandy said, I would not use 2 platforms for a virtual launch. I think I would stick to one, either kind of try to hone in on Zoom or find another web host platform or YouTube Live maybe that would work, that's easily accessible. And also you have to think about your method for inviting people. One of the things that I did prior to the launch party was, over a month in advance, basically from the beginning of the book launches, I was letting people know in just little teasers that there was going to be a party coming up and to be prepared, because when we got closer to the time, I would be sending out notices about it. And I did. I created graphics for these parties with special links so people could RSVP, let it be know whether they were going to be coming, if they were launch members, if they were going to be coming through Zoom, and if they were, just regular attendees, if they were going to go to Facebook. And so for Facebook Live, I created an event and allowed people to RSVP to that event. And then for Zoom, for our close-knit group of clan members, I actually emailed out Zoom links through the platform itself. So yeah, you have to become familiar with it, because whatever platform you use, and you've got to consider how you're going to get those invites out, who you're going to have, and how much the platform itself can handle too, like pending on your, Joe, I think has a bit to add. Certain platforms have limitations.
Yeah, I just want to add, because it's not something that you think about when you finish your book and all of that. I think that social media is something, as you're writing, you need to be thinking about and planning for, and creating. If you don't have for a first-time author, if you don't have an email list, working on all of those kind of things on top of writing and all of the other things you're doing. But really, it's important to be thinking about those things, because you can't be thinking about launching a book right now and not having any of those things in place, because you can be communicating with your through a newsletter or your email list, however you're going to be doing it, about maybe like you were pronouncing names, you know, all of, or something like that along the way, or your process, or whatever it is you want to talk about. I think it's important that as you're writing, you need to begin to think about those things as well.
For sure.
So we have a question from Sandra. How long was the launch party?
We decided that it would be probably about an hour. I think we went slightly over, but not too much. Just, you know, enough to give everybody some fun engagement, but not to, you know, press in on people's personal time, you know, make hours and hours of a party, and then, you know, it's cutting into people's supper or their bedtimes or something. And that was a challenge in and of itself too, because you have to figure that you're working across different time zones when you're doing a virtual launch. And a lot of the people that attended were in different time zones. So we had to kind of figure on a time of day that would work best across several. And
Yeah.
you know, it's hit and miss because you have so many. And in my launch team, I actually had people in the UK and Europe who were part of my team as well. So then that made the recording all the more important for those who weren't able to attend because of the time change. Then they could at least go back and watch it and enjoy in retrospect.
Mm.
So yeah, I definitely recommend not too much longer than an hour. I think that's a good time slot to have for a party and still keep people engaged and having fun. But we kept it flexible too. People could come in and out if they wanted to. With Facebook Live, it's fairly easy for them to go in and out of the party. So some did leave and then come back later.
I have one more question, and then I thought we could open it up to questions here in our community here. What is your overall outlook on your party, Melissa?
Oh, well, I tell you, it's for the author, it's an emotional high to be in a launch party. You're going through extreme excitement and extreme anxiety. So it's all of the emotions hitting you at once. And I think for a good portion of it, I was functioning in survival mode. And like I typically do, even here on Writers Chat, it's like you go into to Zoom mode, I like to put it. And then suddenly, you know, the time flies by and you're like, what just happened? But overall, it was great. It was fun to see the engagement, to see people getting excited and coming in into the chat and all the comments and the banter that we had going between us and people who were talking. And I got such a kick out of seeing people enjoying the trivia and the pronunciation and all, you know, because as an author, you're always wondering and second guessing yourself, you know, is this gonna work? Are people gonna like this? Is this going to engage them? Or is everything going to be this colossal and oh, I failed? And it wasn't that at all. I thought that for the first time doing all of this, you know, by the seat of my pants, that it turned out so well. And we had a lot of rave reviews. And so in the end, even though it took a lot of work and there was a lot of stress and anxiety to it, I think we had a big win and we celebrated that at the end. And definitely praising God for what he did and all that he brought together in that process. I could not have done it without him and without the team.
So whether you're a planner or a pantser,
Yes.
you can do a launch party. Joe?
Yeah, I just want to say too, because you know, you have a certain amount of control as an author over what your process is and all of those things. I think one of the things that is so important is to allow that control to kind of relax that when you're dealing with your team and trusting that team that they are going to do what it is, you know, they have committed to do. And that I think was just a wonderful job for everybody in this team. I think, and Melissa, again, just, you know, worked so incredibly hard. I certainly don't recommend 4 books in a row, but I will tell you this, that kudos to you and to everything that you did. You are one of the most incredible women, a woman that I know that could do what you did on your very first books. And I'm looking forward to the next ones, by the way, because there are next ones.
And I want to add a little bit to that, Joe, in that it's been an honor, Melissa, and a privilege to watch all of this unfold, and how I know behind the scenes, it probably got a little messy, but you handled it with such grace and such professionalism.
Mhm.
And this team, I'm just so blessed to be a part and honored to work with Brandy and Joe on this. And it was fun. And I just hope we can maybe do it again sometime.
Yes.
And with that, I'd like to open it up. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask Melissa or any of us on the team, feel free. Y'all can come on back on camera
Yes.
if you want to, and ask some
And
questions.
please do let me know if you can't get back on camera. I did have to take several people off. And so if you're having trouble with your video, let me know in the chat and I will release you from Writer's Chat jail.
There we go. Melissa, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not too bad, and of course 10 being absolutely ready to jump out of my skin kind of thing, what was your reaction when you found out this was your books were your debut story as an author was going to be rapid fire release?
It was probably closer to 8 or 9.
Okay.
Definitely a jump out of the skin, like, can I do this? Because I already knew I was a slow writer. And to then also have to be a fast writer and then a fast marketer, and not having a lot of background in marketing. And first, I've only just been learning about the marketing process for books. And I started in even knowing that I needed to have a platform in 2017 was the first time I'd ever heard the term platform. And so it's been a scramble because I was still in the process of writing my series while trying to learn about marketing books. And so then to learn this whole new arena that nobody talked about, rapid fire, I could hardly find anything on the subject. So yeah, it was definitely a shock to the system.
I want to say that Melissa did all the right things. When she learned that she needed to do a bunch of marketing, she went and she took a course in marketing that told her so much information what she needed to do. She got herself a plan to communicate, and she communicated well. She followed through on these things. She really learned what it took and then applied everything that she learned. And that is why everything went so well. There are a lot of people that just won't do what it takes to get something done, to do all these things, and they'll just implode under the pressure. But Melissa really applied herself. And I just want to congratulate you, Melissa, for that, for a great launch. But I mean, you really set a stellar example of what to do when you're under pressure. You don't fold, you learn what you need to learn, you go and get the resources that you don't have so that you are then equipped, and then you apply them. So I mean, that's why everything went so well.
So agree. It was an experience for, I think, all of us. And I think it's a good template, for people to use as a learning tool. All that you did. I mean, 4 books in 4 months. I mean, it's unheard of, but I have to tell you that you did, and I know Norma and what Brandy just said, the same. You did the work, and we applaud you so tremendously. We really do. Just, so use it, everybody. Use it as a tool, and we would love to talk about it and do some more things like that. I think it would be lots of fun, to help other people.
For sure.
Melissa, I have a bold question. Sorry, go ahead, Jean.
No, I was just curious because it sounds like the main purpose was to celebrate, have some fun, which was good. But I know there's that underlining thing. There was a marketing and promotional thing. And I think Brandy mentioned, somebody had asked about reviews. Brandy mentioned that was sort of mentioned. Can you talk a little bit? Did you gain more reviews because of your launch party?
I wouldn't
You
say
think?
that the reviews really came in through the launch party. We did share a link for those who had, but we knew that at the point of the launch, the last book had just released and not many people had already been through reading the first books. So
Yeah.
I didn't have high expectations for getting turnover with reviews. The emphasis of reviews themselves is something that you usually share with your launch team as you're going through your book launch. And so that takes a process of months really. But yeah, I would still share review links in my newsletters to all the people who are following. I would share them on social media. On the days that the books would come out, I would encourage those who, were going to buy them. It helps so much if you're willing to leave a review. We appreciate it so much. It helps the readers see the books. And so I would, put a plug in for that there. And we shared the review links in the chat during the launch party and basically conveyed the same thing, that reviews help and it gets the series out there for people to see. And so we appreciate everyone that comes in. And then of course, all those who are on the launch team were people who were able to, get their hands on early copies, and they would read them. And so they were prepared to leave a review if they chose to. And we encouraged them to do so if they were willing to do so.
Well, before we wrap up here, because I think Norma had one more thing she wanted to add before. I wanted to be sure we get on the recording about next week's writers chat and all that. And I'll ask Brandy if she's got any input, because I saw she was the contact. It's Larry Leach going to be with us, and we've not had Larry for a while, so I'm looking forward about that. His topic is the heart of writing. Can you give us any insight what he might be talking about, Brandy? Have you talked to him? Some more details?
Well, I think he's just really going to talk about the heart of writing being, writing itself, but also the heart of the writer, I believe, as well. I'm not completely sure exactly which direction he's going to go, but I know that he is such a fantastic speaker and really has a lot of depth and insight to share with other writers. He's really a treat to listen to. So if you're around next week, I really encourage you to come and listen.
That sounds great. Norma, did you have one thing to say, kind of to wrap us up here at the top of the hour?
I do. Melissa, would you mind sharing the link of how, if anybody here is interested in receiving your clan newsletter, how they can go about doing that, and leave that in our chat? And then that's all I have other than to say, kudos team, y'all did a great job. It was an honor to be a part of it. And Melissa, you are a picture of grace under pressure, honey.
Thank you. Sure appreciate it. Thank you guys. It was
I did
share today.
go ahead.
Oh, just
Oh, I was just going to say, I did put your Linktree link in there, and that's got all the links, including the newsletter link in there.
Yeah, everything social media follows the books. I have my book table set up on my website, so there are pages devoted to each of the books. And so yeah, you can go to my website, you can go to the Linktree and find all of my social media and website links. And I did just put in the specific link to the clan newsletter for those who would like to join the clan, because we always love having more in the clan.
Right.
Well, thank you to all of you guys for sharing insights. It's so real. It makes it real to have writers share with us on this. So we really appreciate all of you that were with us today. And then if you watch the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And we'll see you next week on Writers Chat, where we could chat again. See you next week, everybody. Bye now.